Okay, here it is, the debacle. Alright, so they spent all this money on warfare. At the same time that, they went into war, their terror war, fighting Iraq and Afghanistan, both so totally needlessly. And now I gotta tell you why I say this, that, neither of these wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, were necessary is, number one, Iraq, they didn't do anything to us. There wasn't even one Iraqi in the whole of the, September 11th, plot. There wasn't one Iraqi involved. Most of the hijackers were Saudi. They were Saudi Arabians. They were middle-class Saudi Arabians. They were agents of the CIA and of the Saudi intelligence agency. Why go fight Iraqis over, the Saudi Arabians getting together with the U.S. military-industrial complex and carrying off an attack on New York? It makes no sense at all. It seems like Osama bin Laden, who was a long-term CIA agent, that he had something to do with the planning of September 11th. He had something to do with the Bojinka plot, which never got carried through, but it was another airline assault attack that was planned by Al-Qaeda, and Osama bin Laden being the chief most CIA agent over Al-Qaeda. He had something to do with that, and apparently he had something to do with September 11th plot. Now, the Taliban had offered to turn bin Laden over. They had said to George Bush, present us any evidence that Osama bin Laden had anything to do with the September 11th attacks, and we will deliver him to you. And that's what this was. It was a policing issue. It was not a war issue. It was an issue in which we should have cooperated with the government of Afghanistan in order to get them to extradite this criminal so that we could prosecute him. But in order for Bush to do that, in order for him to present what evidence they had that Osama bin Laden was involved, was complicit, they would have to have revealed that the CIA was involved, that the CIA had foreknowledge of bin Laden being involved in the attacks. Which obviously he was not willing to do. He was not willing to put the CIA out there like that. His dad having been the head of the CIA when the CIA brought Osama bin Laden on board with the CIA's plan to dominate the Middle East, and George Bush Jr. His first business was started with money that was given to him by Salim bin Laden, who is Osama bin Laden's brother. That was at the same time that George Herbert Walker Bush Sr. was the head of the CIA and had begun to fund, worth hundreds of millions of dollars yearly, Osama bin Laden to repel the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and, basically to kill Soviet boys. That's what Osama bin Laden's purpose was in Afghanistan, him being a Saudi national, Osama bin Laden. His purpose in Afghanistan was to kill Russian boys, the Russian soldiers that were being sent there. I don't know, it's one huge mess, the CIA, the Bushes, all that, but, they did these wars, they spent all of this money. At the same time that they did this, they cut the taxes on billionaires. These people that they're able to amass billions of dollars across their lifetime. The billionaires, generally they're making some tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars per year. From owning various corporations that, each of the corporations pays these people, 10, 20 billion dollars per year, just to own the corporation, that they really don't serve any great purpose. but they're the owners, and so they get the bulk of the money from the corporation. Now, they cut the taxes on these people down to about half of what the average U.S. worker is paying in taxes. For example, Warren Buffett, he was paying 17% taxes. His secretary, who makes less than $100,000 per year, was paying 30+% in taxes, whereas he's paying 17% in taxes on his $50 million a year approximate income. So obviously, if the government, they're not going to tax the people that make the most of the money. If they're not going to tax them at the same rate, or at a similar rate to what it is that they're going to tax the average wage earner, they're going to tax them at a way lower rate, then the government's not going to have the money to do all these things that the government is supposed to do. So then if they're gonna do stuff that they're not even supposed to do, attack foreign nations in wars of aggression, obviously they're not gonna make their budget. And what is it that the government's supposed to be doing? I think most people agree with that the EPA exists. I think if most people understood how the EPA is being operated, that they are no protection of the environment, and that they have now been so down-regulated, and that they are so underfunded that even the regulations that are in place are not imposed, that people would not support the present operation of the EPA. But people, they support the notion of the EPA, and they support what it is that the EPA is supposed to accomplish, to keep the environment clean. So that's one thing the government should be doing. There should be a bureaucracy to keep the government, or to keep the environment clean. People support that there be regulation of, like, people they didn't really realize before the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act did away with the Glass-Steagall Act, which was the Great Depression protections that were set in place, and they were in place from the Great Depression until 1999, which is when Gramm-Leach-Bliley eviscerated the Glass-Steagall Act. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, it did away with the regulations that prevented Wall Street from gambling on stocks, and gambling on derivatives, and gambling on all this crazy stuff. And it imposed on them regulations to ensure that they wouldn't be gambling, that what would be happening on Wall Street would be investment and not gambling. But when they did away with those protections, they instituted that Wall Street just it'd be Las Vegas, that it'd just be some crazy gambling scheme, which is what it was and what it is, and it still is going on. That even since the crap out of the economy, they still have not reimposed Glass-Steagall. So people, were they to have a decent understanding of what it is that's going on, and the people that I know that do have an understanding of what Glass-Steagall was and what Gramm-Leach-Bliley did, they totally support that Glass-Steagall be put back in place, and that Gramm-Leach-Bliley be done away with. I think probably people would support prosecuting these people who did Gramm-Leach-Bliley. These people who then profiteered off the gambling on Wall Street, the derivatives market. $700 trillion at one point. It dwarfs the whole world's GDP. The whole world's GDP is approximately $50 trillion. they were saying that the derivatives market, all these backroom gambling deals that were completely unregulated, were at one point worth $700 trillion. I don't know what they are worth today, how much of this, bogus, nothing paper gambling debt has been written into existence, but probably it's even worse because there's been absolutely no attempt to regulate it. And before, it was regulated out of existence, that it was illegal to even do this type of, gambling manipulation of the financial markets. Yeah, so, I don't know. There's a bunch of things that people support that the government do. And, what the government's doing is, they're not doing any of that stuff that the government or that people widely support. And they're doing stuff that people do not support. There's only a 30% support. For like pretty much 8 years, there's been a 30% support of their war on terror. Which is now, for the U.S., the war on terror is in the U.S., by the ridiculous surveillance state that has been imposed, which people do not support. They do not support the spying that's going on in the U.S. The AT&T, complicity with the NSA, that the Congress, they put in effect a retroactive permit to perform this ridiculous spying that people don't even support. So people, they don't support what it is that the government's doing. What it is that the people do support for the government to do, the government's not doing. And so how I see the present debt situation is that the criminal cronies in the government and their criminal cronies in the corporate the corporate fascist establishment, the major corporations, that all of those people, they owe the debt to the bankers who, the banksters, they shouldn't even have been affording this criminal government all this cash to do all their criminality. They basically, since the people have had, expressed a 30% support, and, high 60% support saying no more war, no more war in Afghanistan, no more war in Iraq, bring the troops home, that the government keep doing that stuff, and that the banksters be funding that stuff, in these debt, these loans to this criminal government, none of that is owed by the people. The people do not owe these criminal banksters who are supporting this criminal government. The totality of that debt, the trillions of dollars on warfare, the trillions of dollars on the surveillance state, all of that bogus spending, all of the spending that the U.S. taxpayer does not in any way support, or does not by majority support, it's all it's between those two parties. It's not something that can be placed on the head of the taxpayer. They're going to say now, that people, they're not able to withdraw the Social Security money that is due them. Stuff like this. It's all totally bogus. That the U.S. federal government, they have no place to attempt to impose their war debt to the criminal banksters, their criminal war debt to the criminal banksters. They have no place to impose that on people that did not support it, except but by 30%. And those 30%ers, probably they were in some way profiteers off of that war. They were not, the average American who, by 70%, disavowed the war, which was, let's find out exactly what it was. You know, we can't really find out exactly what it is because they, I don't know, they fudge the numbers. Like, I don't know, as far as like defense spending, they include the, I don't know, they exclude the nuclear weapons arsenal because they put it under the Department of Energy. And, I don't know, the billions of dollars that were sent to Iraq, billions of dollars similarly that were sent to Afghanistan, which just disappeared. So, you know, this cost of the U.S. war, it may or may not be accurate. I don't know, in the year 2001, it was actually announced on September 10th, $2.3 trillion was missing from the Pentagon budget. They don't know where it was spent. It was never located. And you know, September 11th, it just made it all disappear. You know, that it got lost from the media spotlight, you know, one day after they announced it. September 10th they announced it, September 11th obviously occurred, and then, you know, there's been no question put to the Pentagon as to where this $2.3 trillion got disappeared to. This is what they're saying the cost of war to the United States. Iraq war, $788 million. The Afghanistan war, billion. So this is $1.226 trillion that they're saying is, that's just the war costs. Yeah, that's not the spending on defense, you know, supposed defense, even though it's really an offense budget because, you know, this criminal government, you know, they're expressly intent to perform criminal wars. And, you know, so it's not a defense budget, really. You know, so the U.S. taxpayer, they're affording these people, in addition to this $1.3 approximately trillion that is being spent on the Iraq and Afghanistan war to date. Yeah, they are. It's approximately $500 billion per year defense spending. So since 2001. You know, Bush cut the taxes on the wealthy, $500 billion per year on defense spending. What does that come out to? It's like $5 trillion. $5 trillion plus $1.2 trillion is $6.2 trillion. And yeah, it doesn't even account for the domestic surveillance budget, which, you know, they're, you see, I have to bring up another website here. The Washington Post, Top Secret America, a hidden world growing beyond control. And, you know, this defense budget, or surveillance budget, rather, they're saying it's like $2 trillion, approximately, since September 11th. I have to bring it up. Let's see, explore connections, find companies, share data. Some 1,271 government organizations, 1,931 private companies work on programs related to counterterrorism, homeland security, and intelligence, about 10,000 locations across the United States. An estimated 854,000 people, nearly 1.5 times as many people as live in Washington, D.C., hold top-secret security clearances. In Washington and the surrounding area, 33 building complexes for top-secret intelligence work are under construction or have been built since September 11th, or since September 2001. Together, they occupy the equivalent of almost 3 Pentagon or 22 U.S. Capitol buildings, about 17 million square feet of space. Somewhere in here they describe what the budget is for all this, but obviously if they're now employing 854,000 people in the United States that have top secret security clearances, the budget for that is hefty. I'll include the link to this article. I don't know, basically what this article spells out is that 1 per 350 Americans is a spy agent bureaucrat with a top secret security clearance.